you're good to go.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Public Safety Committee meeting on Tuesday, April 26, 2022. It is 11:32 a.m. in the morning, and present today is Councilman Vince Polizzi, myself, Bonnie Katz. We have all sorts of chiefs here. We have Chief Lucas, Chief Justin Snyder, Assistant Chief Jason Bolts. I'm trying to read everybody here. Be patient with me. Janice Frank, City Clerk, Molly Steele, HR, our esteemed Mayor Derek Slaughter, Chief Sam Ongst, and I think I've gotten everybody, and Chris Black, our IT person. And we also have in the room also is Leroy Stolzes. To get this meeting started, the first thing on the agenda would be, there's 5 things on the agenda. Number 1 is an ordinance creating the position of police chaplain within the Williamsport Bureau of Police. And this is the first reading. Chief Justin Snyder, you are up.
Yep, this is an ordinance I'm proposing for the creation of police chaplain within the Williamsport Bureau of Police. Just to go over a couple highlights with it, the position we're looking to create is a volunteer position with no salary or no benefits. And the position of the chaplain would fall under the control of the chief of police. Qualifications that we would be looking for is that any person appointed to as a chaplain shall undergo a background investigation that would include, but is not limited to, a criminal history background check, a child abuse history clearance, and the chaplain who is chosen would also have to be certified. They would have to go through a police chaplain training certification program to acquire police chaplain credentials. To go over the duties of a police chaplain, what would have the duties we're looking at shall include, but aren't limited to, the assisting of the Williamsport Bureau of Police in death notifications, providing comfort to victims and families, and officers at traumatic incidences, give confidential counsel to police departmental personnel, provide a moral and ethical foundation to police personnel, provide referral and resource assistance as requested, provide pastoral functions at special events and ceremonies or other religious events as requested. They may assist with critical incident stress debriefing and serve as a liaison with the local clergy, or a liaison with police families in the event of a line of duty, injury, or death, and any duties that may be assigned by myself, the chief of police. Going into the term of office, it would be for a period of 1 year from the date of appointment, and shall continue to serve in that capacity until he or she is either terminated or reappointed with the recommendation of the chief of police. The appointment of the police chaplain position shall be reviewed by myself to determine whether or not he or she meets the qualifications in accordance with this ordinance. And then I would make recommendations to the mayor regarding the appointment. This is a non-establishment of religion, just to make sure that's clear. The program is in no way a recognition, establishment, or promotion by the city of Williamsport of any particular religion or religious sect. No officer, employee of the police department, or a member of the public will be mandated or required to participate in the chaplain program or to avail themselves of the police chaplain services. This is strictly on a voluntary basis. I'll open up the floor. This ordinance was reviewed by the solicitor, Austin White, and I'll open up the floor for any questions that you may have.
Chief Snyder, have we ever had a chaplain?
We've had chaplains in the past, not necessarily in the capacity of this program. So essentially what we're looking for is that we're going to have a chaplain ride-along program. So they're going to be uniformed. They're not going to be armed, but they'll be uniformed. They'll have identification as chaplain on their uniform. It'll be anywhere from 2 to 4, maybe up to 6 days a month that the chaplain will come in and do these ride-alongs for a certain period of times and nobody's obligated to ride along with them. It's all volunteer on a voluntary basis. It's a proven this was brought to my attention actually by Scranton PD with their chaplain program. So it's been a program that's been in place for a while now. And we just haven't had one to this extent here. We've had chaplains in the past.
I think it's an excellent idea. I mean, it would be someone that the police department would have access to talk to someone. I mean, you are in a very stressful job, and to have somebody there, and I'm assuming this would be part of their duties if they
Yes.
needed someone to, if someone wanted to sit down and talk to them.
Yes, that's something I'm excited about, because I'm trying to work on our officer wellness program to do better for the officers. So this allows a conduit for officers to reach out, go talk. It's all privileged conversation. So that's between them and the clergy or the chaplain. So I was trying to find a way that could happen. So to open up that door for some of our officers. So that is part of the plan.
Do you have anybody in mind at this point? Are we?
Yes, we do. We're currently in doing a background check on a subject right now. I think it's going to be a good candidate. So once those backgrounds are done, I'm going to present that person, and hopefully we get this started within the next month or so.
Thank you, Chief. I have no other. John Mackey, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I apologize for my tardiness.
That's fine. I have no other questions right now. Turn it over to you, John.
And Councilwoman Katz, it's good to see at least the top of your head again. I'm glad that you're feeling better.
Trust me, that's all you're going to be seeing.
Councilman Palizzi, do you have any questions?
There we go. Sorry, I lowered my hand here, digital hand. No, I just want to say, Chief Snyder, thank you for bringing this in front of us. I concur with Councilwoman Katz. I think this is a great idea. I think this would be a great supporting role for the mental, spiritual, emotional wellness and well-being of all of our officers. Whether you are a person that embraces religion or not, even if it's just having an ear to talk to, I think it's a great idea. So thank you. I look forward to seeing who you bring forward.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I did sign on a little bit late, and again, I apologize for that. I've got a sick 10-year-old here, so I kind of got a little sidetracked dealing with that. But Chief, you said this is going to be a volunteer position. Is that correct?
This is volunteer. It's a non-paid position, all volunteer.
And I do apologize if you already went over this. Could you just briefly explain to me? You said the chaplain will work 6 to 8 days a month, and they will have their own patrol car, so to speak. They
not their own patrol car. What was expressed to me is that typically in the beginning they're going to do anywhere from 2 to 4 to maybe 6 days a month, depending on how the reception is with the officers. So they won't get their own car. He or she won't get their own car. They will be uniformed. So they're going to do a ride along. So they'll jump in with the officer for a couple hours at a time. So they'll kind of be embedded with the officer, open up those lines of communication, let the officers know that they're there. So it's not going to be an inundation of the police officers. And no police officer would be obligated to partake in this.
And the chaplain would be in uniform?
They'll be uniformed, but marked clearly as chaplain.
And will they be provided with body armor?
They will be provided with body armor. Yes, they will not be armed.
Okay. All right. I think this sounds like a great idea. And as you said, this is not something we've had for a while now here in the city, maybe even to this extent ever.
Yep.
So, okay. Great. Well, if there's no other questions, I
just have one quick
sorry.
question.
Yeah.
Chief, you do have the uniform and body armor in your budget for this?
Yeah, in our initial budget.
I know finance will come up with this one.
Yep.
Okay. Just going to touch that base because you know they're going to hit you with that one.
Absolutely. We're gonna draw from initial issue.
Okay. That's all I have, John.
Okay, if there's no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we pass this on to a full body of council with a positive recommendation.
Second.
So move, great. All right, that'll get us to the second item on our agenda. It's a resolution authorizing the Williamsport Bureau of Police to hire one police officer, Jacob Hulling.
Yeah.
Chief Snyder.
Yes, sir. This is going to be a replacement for a retirement that's going to be occurring on this Friday, actually, April 29th. Mr. Jacob Hewling is being brought forward for your consideration and confirmation. Candidate Hewling has completed all the requirements for employment with the Williamsport Bureau of Police and is scheduled to commence his employment with the city, which would be May 16th of 2022. Hewling is already certified as a police officer, having his Act 120 certification through MOPEC, which is the Municipal Police Officers Education and Training Commission. Hewlings currently resides in Jersey Shore, PA. He's 25 years old. He's a 2015 graduate at Jersey Shore High School and a 2020 graduate of Wilkes University. He has a bachelor's degree in criminology and sociology. He attended the Mansfield University Police Academy, where he received a certification in 2021. Right now, he's currently working as a police officer at the UPMC hospital here in Williamsport. So I open up the floor for any questions that anybody has for Mr. Hewling.
Councilman,
regarding Mr. Hewling.
Thank you. Just to clarify, Chief, like you said, this is candidate Hewling would be replacing an upcoming retiree, an officer that's retiring. What's our current complement of our current number of police officers, Chief?
That is correct. And right now we're budgeted for 48 officers. So once our retirement happens on April 29th, that'll put us down to 47. The hiring of Mr. Hewling on May 16th would put us back up to 48.
Okay. That was, look forward to seeing this young man don the Williamsport police crest. So, all right. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Councilwoman Katz.
Chief Snyder, who's retiring?
It's going to be Lieutenant Helm.
It's his last day on the 29th. Interesting. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
I don't have any other questions.
Okay, great. Yeah, if there's no other questions, yeah, I mean, I'm glad to hear that he is ready to hit the ground running here. He doesn't need to attend the academy. How do you know how long he's been with the? I guess the UPMC police officer program hasn't been around that long. So
yeah, I believe he's been there with about the last year or so. Okay,
and has he been there pretty much since the start, or?
Pretty close, I believe.
Okay, great. Okay, well, I mean, if there's no other questions, I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to pass this resolution to the full body of council with a positive recommendation.
Second.
All right, so move. Great. Well,
all those in favor.
All those in favor. I always forget that.
Aye.
Aye. I mean, we're all in favor of it.
Yeah, we're all in favor.
All right, that'll get us to the third item on our agenda. That's a resolution authorizing a professional services agreement between the Williamsport Bureau of Fire and Higher Information Group. And it looks like Chief Lucas is going to be taking this one. Or is it?
I'm going to take this one.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody. So what you see before you is we're looking to enter into a contract with Higher Information Group for copier printer services for the platoon chief's office in the back of fire headquarters. If you looked, that printer we're currently using right now is a 2003, and we got it over here in 2009. We can't even get parts for it anymore. With this agreement, we would put on there what the purchase price was versus a lease cost. We're looking at a 5-year lease, and that 5-year lease locks us into that rate. If we purchase it out, we could possibly get a 5% increase each year if we purchase it. So we're looking at the lease program that we're locked in. We can budget for it And not only would we be upgrading our services, but we would be saving the city money. It's a win-win. I don't know if you guys got the email I sent out on the monthly comparison chart.
I did see that you sent that email. I hadn't had a chance to look at it yet. Are there any questions as of right now? Councilwoman Katz, Councilwoman Pelisi?
I don't have any
Councilman
questions. It's something you really need.
No questions from my end. If it's something that we need to make sure we have everything that we need and it's saving us money, sounds great to me.
Good job in researching.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, no, I don't have any other questions as of right now. Just to be clear, that I'm looking at what I think is the contract here. The purchase price is listed here as $775. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that's just to purchase the copier outright?
Yeah, if we purchased it, it'd be $775, and then the maintenance plan would be $45 a month is all we would pay. With the lease agreement, it's $68.36, but the maintenance plan is included in that for the whole 5 years.
Okay, all right.
How much? Does this go through to city solicitor?
I don't believe it did, no.
This should be really going over with the city solicitor first to make sure everything's in order.
Okay.
Chief, I'm looking at your comparison chart here. I did receive it, so it looks, I appreciate it, especially that you've highlighted everything in red here. Total monthly savings if we purchase this is $48.98 a month. Total monthly savings if we lease this is approximately $25.62 a month, correct?
Correct.
Okay, well, I believe we can have the solicitor check this out before Thursday. Is that correct, Bonnie?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, I mean, aside from that, if there's no other issues, I'll entertain a motion on this.
I'll make a motion to pass this to the full body council with a positive recommendation.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Got it that time.
Thank you.
Okay, the fourth item on the agenda is just a discussion on our towing ordinance. And I believe Councilman Pelisi, you had kind of been the driving force behind this getting on the agenda. Did you want to speak to that?
Yes, I did. Thank you very much, Mr. Mackey. So there's been some discussion as far as the Williamsport towing ordinance. There's also been, I don't think many people quite understand exactly the way the towing ordinance is set up within Williamsport and how it's applied for towing companies. I doubt even more that many people in the city even know that Chief Snyder, correct me if I'm wrong in this, the Towing Association Committee, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. This was first brought to my attention by the Mr. Leroy Stolfutz of Freedom Towing, who's with us here today, as far as some problems that were being encountered with trying to be able to provide towing services to the city of Williamsport. And, we dealt a little bit further into this, and in discussions with Chief Snyder, I believe Chief Snyder also has some considerations, some thoughts on what we could do regarding this towing ordinance to make this process or a bit more streamlined, possibly even transferring oversight of the towing association board committee, whatever it may be, away from the police department's oversight and actually towards the city administration's oversight. I see both Chief Snyder and Chief Bolt shaking their heads in positively. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Chief Snyder here to kind of fill everybody in with what some of his concerns, questions, recommendations may be.
Yeah, one of the things with the tow association ordinance, it's essentially, I'm just going to give my thoughts and my opinion here. I don't think the Williamsport Police Department should be involved and overseeing the tow association. I think some things can change with things. I know I talked to you, Mr. Lizzie, about it a little bit. Maybe it's something where the city, maybe we do an RFP and put out for a tow service. But right now, with the way things are going and how they're working, I don't think that the Williamsport Police should be overseeing the tow association. Just kind of the gist of it. I don't want to talk too much for the mayor. I made this proposal or gave this thought to Mr. Slaughter of my concerns with it and the police department overseeing the tow association. And it would be my recommendation to remove us from being the oversight of the tow association as it is right now.
Thank you, Chief. I see we have Mayor Slaughter here. Mayor, do you have anything that you'd like to add regarding Chief Snyder's considerations, recommendations?
I would agree with what Chief Snyder said. As he mentioned, him and I have had conversations related to this, and it doesn't seem the best option forward to have our police department oversee the towing association. So I do think it is, it probably would be a good idea for the administration and city council to review this ordinance. I did reach out to Janice Frank because for documentation, she's been a little bit, I know she's still looking for some other, because it's been a number of years now, I believe, since this initially went into effect, just so that Chief Snyder, myself, Chief Bolt can look this over and see what the original agreement and possibly what the original intent was of this ordinance. And so going from there, I think it probably is a good time now to take a look at this and make sure that it is equitable across the city for the tow companies and what the best method of that is moving forward.
Thank you, Mayor. Oh, sorry, Bonnie.
If I remember correctly, this goes back so many years at this point, and there were so many back and forth discussions with this, and I think if I remember correctly, this ordinance divided the city in half at one point. Am I correct, Chief? That you had.
What do you mean? What do you mean by dividing the city in half?
That there were tow companies from East End and tow companies from West End, or am I confusing this issue? Because there were so many discussions with this, so many discussions, and I don't think we ever readdressed this to clean up anything that did come to fruition, which we should have done, because it's like anything else. When something is presented and we do an ordinance, it takes a while for all the bugs to be ironed out, and I don't think that's ever happened, if I remember correctly. And the committee itself, I don't even remember how many people were on this committee, but it did lock out anybody else coming into it. So, this does have to be readdressed. And, to me, I think it's a good thing, Vince, that you did bring this up. So somebody like Leroy, who is trying to also make a living with this, the doors aren't closed to him, and to see where we are and how this has proceeded over the years. I don't even know if we have information on this, do we, Chief?
No, I've been looking, ma'am, trying to find more on it. And I've not found anything here.
Yeah, it was very confusing, to be truthful with you. It wasn't a clean, to me, it wasn't a clean ordinance, okay, all the way around. And I don't mean that there was anything illegal, don't get me wrong, but the language itself, I think, should have been readdressed. I really do. So, and I agree, the police department has enough on their plate other than going into towing. And so, I don't know where you want to proceed with this, Vince, with, how we're going to go about this, but it should be cleaned up.
Sorry, Mayor,
I'm sorry. No, I was just going to say, I think once it, Janice Frank can find that, once we go, because as Councilwoman Katz said, I believe this does go back quite a ways. And then we can take a look and see, what that says was and what, talk to our solicitors and see if there's anything we should be doing. So sorry, Councilman, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I was gonna say, once we have all the information, then we can probably take, council and administration collectively take a look and see what the best path forward is. So sorry, Council.
I would just like to make sure that it doesn't get lost, because this is something, one of those things that we have put on the back burner, and it should not be put on the back burner.
Yep, Janice Frank said she's been looking for this. I know she's been digging through the files, so I'm sure she'll find some stuff, and then we can have a solicitor take a look and see what we want to do from there.
If anybody can find it, Janice will.
If it's okay with the committee at this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Stolfitz at least to kind of give his 2 cents, understand where he's been coming from, maybe some of the frustration that he's dealt with, and any thoughts or considerations he may have as far as how to kind of make this easier to deal with, better to deal with. If that's okay with the committee. Mr. Mackey?
Does he know, Leroy, does he know you're on mute?
Did I do that right?
Yep,
You're
there
right.
you are.
Okay. Good morning, council and all the chiefs, everybody. Thanks for having me on today. To backtrack a little bit, the towing ordinance and the split. Now, this doesn't have anything to do with me, but just in my research, the reason that split was in the ordinance was when the towing ordinance was originally designed from Chief Hager. Is that how you say it? Hager? The retired Chief Hagen?
The recent one was Chief Hagan.
Hagen, okay. In conversation with retired Chief Hagen, the idea of the split was just simply logistically of where the tow companies and the tow yards were placed. But then as time went along, there was a change to the ordinance, and I actually have a copy of that, where that split was taken away or no longer used because some of as tow companies, either tow owners retired and things had changed from, I think, maybe 8 or 10 tow companies to 6 or 7 or whatever's currently there. So that was the reason for that split, was a logistical thing, which I guess at the time made sense. But it's not used today. If the city of Williamsport or the police department needs a tow, they call for whoever's up next on the rotation citywide.
Thank you, Mr. Stolfitz. It has me wondering, with the towing ordinance, and if we're going to look to transfer oversight of the towing ordinance away from the police department, I think as we should, and over to, the oversight and implementation of the city, do we really need to convolute this or make it even more confusing? Do we even need a towing association committee? I mean, this is kind of rhetorical right now, but something to think about moving into the future. It sounds like this is something that we don't even need. Again, to me, it just sounds so much easier when you say it. Why can't we just have the local towing companies that have an interest to tow for or within the city? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, Mr. Stolfitz, it's not like the city is paying these tow companies, whatever this may be. I believe all this is doing is that when there is an incident or an occurrence to where the city needs to tow a vehicle, these towing companies that are on this towing association, they go through a rotation, and then the city calls up whoever's the next in rotation. Is that correct?
Yeah, essentially with the police, what we do is we contact 911 or the dispatch center and request a tow, and then it goes through the tow association. From what I understand and what I think is happening is they have their own dispatch and their own way of doing things, that our dispatch contacts their dispatch, and then the next person in line is brought up. So
So to me, it sounds as simple as the city absorbs this, we do away with the towing association committee, and then just request that any towing company that would like to tow on behalf of the city, register with the city, and you pretty much give the list to whoever's working our dispatch, and just go through, hey, whoever's next up in the rotation, that's the towing company that's contacted. Could it be that simple? Maybe not.
Or maybe it's, I mean, I don't know. I think that's more so a question maybe for a solicitor, councilman.
Right.
If we could ask them. And maybe it's a thing where it's sort of a combination of that and, but via like an RFP, where any company or companies that are interested, maybe we put out an RFP, but maybe it is that simple. But I think that's probably a question for the solicitor to see if we want to just, button this up a little bit. What's the easiest way for us to do that? So I think either Norm or Austin, Jay David, whomever, we could reach out to them and see what we should do here.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, like to Councilwoman Katz's point, I just don't want to see this kind of get lost in the background again. It sounds like there's definitely a need to make a change here, especially if we have both of our police chiefs here shaking their heads saying that this should go elsewhere. And we have some other concerned business owners that think that there should be a change as well. So I agree with you wholeheartedly, Mayor, that we should have our solicitors look into this and then possibly reconvene the next public safety committee to see with, what headway we've made on this, what progress we made, and to move forward with trying to fix this.
Sure, I'll have Chief Snyder and Chief Bolt can reach out to the solicitor and report back then here in a few weeks.
Okay. Thank you very much, Councilman Mackey, for giving me the floor and to discuss this.
Absolutely.
I've got no further comments or questions. But before I hand this back over, I'd just like to say thank you, Chief Snyder, Chief Bolt, Mr. Stolfitz for being here and kind of conveying your concerns regarding this. So thank you.
thank you, sir.
Councilwoman Katz, do you have anything you'd like to
No,
add?
I have no other questions.
Yeah, I would just ask Janice and Mayor Slaughter, once the documentation's found, if you could forward that to the rest of the Public Safety Committee, that'd be great. And then I think that's step one is finding this information, and then we can go from there. So.
Yep, will do. Yep.
I can get it to you tomorrow, but if Mr. Stolpus would email me what he has, because there was an ordinance, and I think there were some amendments made to that ordinance and some resolutions. There was a bunch that went on.
Yes, I can forward you what I have, or at least I can get you the numbers off the ordinance, if that would be helpful. But I mean, I can get the whole thing. I can get what I have.
Very helpful.
And what
Thank
I have was simply passed along to me by the former chief.
Well, we would appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Again, for coming to the meeting today and helping us out with this.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, that was just a discussion. The next, any related items, does anybody else have anything they'd like to add?
No,
Anybody on the administration? No? Okay.